For the following 10 movies, certain roles were very nearly played by another actor at one point in time. In some cases, it's near impossible to see how the original casting choice would have made sense for the film we finally got, and while we'll never really know how the original actors would have fared in the movies that we're about to talk about, each would have provided a stark contrast from those who worked the job in the end. So I am Gareth, you are watching What Culture, and here are 10 recent movie roles almost played by other actors. Number 10, Dwayne Johnson, Colt Seavers, the Fall Guy. The big screen reboot of 1980s TV series The Fall Guy actually began development all the way back in 2010, but it wasn't until 2013 that the first major star was attached, with Dwayne Johnson signed to star as Hollywood stuntman Colt Seavers. This version of the film got far enough to also attach a director, McG, but quietly stalled during development, before the project was resurrected in 2020 with an entirely new cast and crew. And at this point, Johnson was replaced by Ryan Gosling in the lead role. Having seen the version of the movie that actually came out, it's pretty tough to picture Johnson fitting in at all. Clearly, the final iteration was designed around Gosling's scrawnier build and strengths as a comedic actor, whereas Johnson would have brought a decidedly different energy to it. Plus, Johnson's enormous stature makes him inherently tougher to believe in the role of an invisible stuntman who can blend into a Hollywood set. I mean, how would you miss him? So it's safe to say that Gosling was 100% the better choice for this. Number 9, Anya Taylor-Joy, Ellen Hutter, Nosferatu. When Robert Eggers was first prepping his Nosferatu remake in 2017, his regular collaborator Anya Taylor-Joy was cast to portray female lead Ellen Hutter, but scheduling conflicts ultimately caused her to vacate the role. In 2022, it was announced that Taylor-Joy had been replaced by Lily Rose Depp, a casting choice that vast swathes of the internet angrily deemed a massive downgrade. Given Taylor-Joy's prior work with Eggers on The Witch and The Northman, she seemed like a perfect fit for Ellen, while Depp's prior work on the calamitous HBO series The Idol left many questioning her ability to rise to the occasion. But Depp ultimately acquitted herself beyond any doubt, giving a mesmerizing, grueling physical and emotional performance as Ellen that made it incredibly difficult to question her casting at all. While Taylor-Joy clearly would have also been fantastic in the role, Lily Rose Depp ends up feeling like anything but a second choice. Now, Depp's performance likely surprised a few people there, didn't it? So I want to know right now, what's another movie performance that surprised you the most? Throw those answers in the comments section down below. Number 8, Barry Keoghan, Emperor Caracalla, Gladiator 2. Gladiator 2 originally saw Ridley Scott cast the great Barry Keoghan as the unhinged Emperor Caracalla, one of the movie's villainous co-emperors alongside his more conniving brother Gator. But several months after Keoghan entered negotiations to play the part, he was forced to exit due to scheduling conflicts with the drama Saltburn, leaving the role of Caracalla to be taken up by Fred Hechinger. Now, while it is clear that Keoghan would have had a ton of fun playing the psychotic emperor, Hechinger ultimately gives a brilliantly, discomfortingly weaselly performance, and one that bounces quite perfectly off his screen sibling Joseph Quinn. They were horribly great together, weren't they? Keoghan's star wattage obviously outweighs Hechinger's by a sizable margin, and many, most of all Scott, will surely decry that he wasn't able to play the part. But Hechinger did a great job regardless, and casting a lesser-known actor may ultimately have worked in the character's favor here, to be honest. Number 7, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Praetorian Jack, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Though George Miller apparently only ever had Anya Taylor-Joy in mind to play a younger version of Charlize Theron's Furiosa, the part of Furiosa's badass comrade Praetorian Jack actually very nearly went elsewhere. English actor Tom Burke ended up playing Jack in the final film, but during pre-production, Watchmen and Aquaman star Yahya Abdul-Mateen II was cast, ultimately dropping out due to scheduling conflicts a few months prior to shooting. As intriguing as it would have been to see Yahya Abdul-Mateen II in this role, it is tough to begrudge the swap too much, what with Burke similarly being an extremely talented on-the-rise actor, who ended up being supremely well suited to playing Jack. There's also no guarantee that Abdul-Mateen would have had the same chemistry with Anya Taylor-Joy, and Burke made enough of an impression as Jack that it's honestly tough to picture Abdul-Mateen in this role, or at least portraying it the same way. He may have been ace, but we know that Burke was. Number 6, Zendaya, Julia Cicero, Megalopolis. Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis spent the better part of 50 years in various stages of development before finally being released. And with that came a slew of casting changes amid Coppola's numerous attempts to get it in front of cameras. Among the many actors who came and went in recent years is Zendaya, who was originally selected by Coppola to portray the epic sci-fi drama's female lead, Julia Cicero. However, scheduling conflicts eventually caused the actress to drop out, leading Coppola to replace her with Game of Thrones and Fast and Furious star Natalie Emmanuel. Honestly, many are probably thinking that Zendaya dodged a sizable bullet here, given that Megalopolis received wildly polarizing reviews from critics and audiences alike, with the majority of the film's performances, including Emmanuel's, receiving mixed notices. It's tough to picture Zendaya bringing much more gravitas to the clunky script than Emmanuel, and given that she instead filled her 2024 with Dune Part 2 and Challengers, she probably isn't regretting her choice to walk away. If you're having fun with this list looking at actors who nearly played recent movie roles, then hit that subscribe button and you will get even more of these What Culture videos each and every day. Number 5. Bill Skarsgard, Fade Rautha Harkonnen, Dune Part 2. Of the many tricky roles to cast in Dune Part 2, there were surely none tougher than that of the sadistic Fade Rautha Harkonnen, a role played so memorably by Sting in the late great David Lynch's prior 1984 Dune adaptation. Denis Villeneuve ultimately decided to cast Austin Butler in the role, but prior to this, the filmmaker did actually consider hiring Bill Skarsgard, which would have instantly made sense given that Skarsgard's father, Stellan, plays Fade's uncle, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, in both Dune films. For whatever reason, it just wasn't to be. Yet Butler gave such a chameleonic, savage performance as Fade that there's no need to lament what might have been. Plus, this freed up Bill Skarsgard, scheduled to star in Robert Eggers' Nosferatu remake later in 2022. And considering how incredible his performance as Count Orlok was, it's fair to say that everything worked out for the best here. Number 4. Jim Carrey, Rod, Ricky Stanicky. It's rather fitting that Ricky Stanicky feels like a comedy ripped out of a whole different era, given that it was in development for the better part of 15 years before finally coming to fruition, with John Cena playing the wild central character. But in the early 2010s, the likes of James Franco and Joaquin Phoenix flirted with playing the part, before Jim Carrey finally committed to it in 2013. However, development stalled for many years, and by the time it was resurrected in 2022, Carrey had long since moved on. Still, it's certainly easy to see how such a role would be fine-tuned to Carey's mug-happy talents. Ricky is a fake persona invented by a group of friends to serve as a scapegoat for all their mischief. But when they finally need a physical presence for the man, they hire an actor, Rod, to portray him. It's a hilariously deranged premise and one which Carey would have likely had an absolute feast with. If his utterly bonkers recent dual performance in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is any indication, you've all seen the dance by now, it is great. Then again, John Cena went so hard with his performance, so much harder than he ever needed to really, that it's no big deal that Jim Carrey didn't get the chance. Number 3, Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader, Disgust and Fear, Inside Out 2. Though the majority of Inside Out's voice cast returned for the sequel, there were two major exceptions: Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader, who memorably voiced emotions disgust and fear respectively in the first film. Kaling and Hader ultimately opted not to return, reportedly due to Disney offering them a low-ball salary of just $100,000 apiece, amounting to a mere 2% of star Amy Poehler's $5 million salary. Even accepting that disgust and fear are smaller parts compared to Poehler's joy, that does seem heinously low, especially for actors as established and celebrated as Kaling and Hader in a $200 million movie, no less. The pair refused to reprise their roles, which were instead played by Lisa Lapira and Tony Hale, who certainly did solid enough work as replacements, even if it's a damn shame that Disney couldn't make more generous offers to the original actors. That said, the personnel change clearly didn't harm Inside Out 2's box office any, at least. Number 2, Amanda Seyfried, Glinda, Wicked. Wicked director John M. Chu recently revealed that everyone up for the central roles of Glinda and Elphaba had to audition, with no exceptions made whatsoever. And so, before the role of Glinda went to Ariana Grande, a number of musically inclined actresses were in the mix, perhaps most prominently Amanda Seyfried. Following Wicked's release, Seyfried confirmed that she auditioned for the role of Glinda, and went hard in her words, adding that it was a very long process before the part was ultimately won by Grande. This seems to suggest that Seyfried was a genuine contender for the role, having been in consideration for a lengthy period of time. Given the success of her prior musical roles in Mamma Mia and Les Miserables though, it certainly makes sense. All the same, Grande proved to be such a perfect fit for Glinda that it's tough to argue with Chu's final choice, something Seyfried herself also seems to appreciate. Number 1. Jason Momoa, Eric Draven, The Crow. A remake of Alex Proyas's classic 1994 comic book adaptation of The Crow has been in the works since 2008 and has seen a bevy of high-profile actors considered for the part, including Bradley Cooper, Mark Wahlberg, Channing Tatum, Ryan Gosling, James McAvoy, Alexander Skarsgard, Luke Evans, Jack Houston, Nicholas Hoult, and Jack O'Connell. But before Bill Skarsgard starred in the recently released film, Jason Momoa very nearly ended up playing the vengeful superhero Eric Draven. In late 2016, Momoa was confirmed to be cast in the lead role in a version of the film set to be directed by Corin Hardy, who directed The Hallow and The Nun. But by mid-2018, Hardy and Momoa both exited the film, with Hardy citing creative differences with the rights holder to the IP. Shortly thereafter, however, Hardy did tweet a photo of a makeup test featuring Momoa, and a brief sliver of test footage was later leaked too, both of which provided fans with a glimpse of what Momoa would have looked like in The Crow's distinctive face paint. Momoa's hulking physicality would have certainly made his take on the character distinct from Brandon Lee and Skarsgard's more wiry versions. And above all else, it's tough to picture Hardy and Momoa's remake being worse than the one we actually got.